Hi everyone, today we're going to replace a motor on your EVO system. So right here I have an EVO 1 with the door and receptacle taken out. The first thing I'm going to do is come down here. I'm going to look for this bundle of wires that's connected to the water valve. There should be one set of red and black wires and one set of green and white wires. The motor is connected here at the red and black side, so I'm going to disconnect that so that I can remove my motor later on. Next, I'm going to remove the top cover by undoing 2 screws here and here. Set those somewhere safe. Now I'm going to remove the top cover by tilting up and gently rocking towards me, making sure not to pull too hard since there are some connectors here that I'm going to go ahead and gently remove by pushing in and pulling down. And then I will unplug the HDMI as well. With those disconnected, I'm going to take my top cover and I'll rest it somewhere safe. Now we're going to be replacing the motor, which is right here. So I'm going to remove the belts by pulling up and freeing them from the pulley. I'm also going to pull the belts up so they are out of the way for the rest of the procedure. Next, I'm going to grab a Phillips head screwdriver and I'm going to remove the motor plate by unscrewing the 5 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now I'm going to lift the motor plate up and since I've unplugged it earlier, I'm going to make sure to gently pull the motor wire out. Now that I have this whole assembly removed, I'm going to finish removing the mounting screws by removing these 3 final screws here. With those screws taken out, I'm going to remove the motor plate and set my old motor to the side. Here I have my new motor that I'm going to replace, just like the old motor. I'm going to start by putting in the 4 mounting screws, and I'm going to make sure that I line up these holes with those 4 screw holes. All right, I'm now going to take the rubber band off of my motor cord, and I will place the harness down through this hole, and at this step I'm going to be very careful and make sure that I route my motor down the right side of the machine. So here we go. I'm going to place it through this hole, and I'm going to feed it down the right side of the machine. And if I can't find it, what I will do is go ahead and I will just reach up this right side here, and it should be dangling right where I need it. So now I'm going to set this here, and I'll make sure it ends up in a spot where I can reconnect it easily later, but now we're going to finish installing the motor. Now that my wire is fed through, what I'm going to do is replace the mounting bracket, making sure that this bearing is pointing down in between the two cylinders. And since these are slotted, what I will do is make sure this plate is lined up so that the cylinders fit nicely with the bearings. So I will do that by pushing up gently and looking for right about where the cylinders would naturally rest. So kind of eyeballing it to be right about where those cylinders look lined up to be shooting straight down into the drain. So I'll say about there. So I'm going to hold the bracket there and tighten down these screws. Alright, now that I've replaced the screws, I'm going to take my belts, I'm going to remount them onto the motor pulley. So to do that, I'm going to loop my belt around the cylinder, and then pull it up and over the pulley. Now it doesn't matter which one's on top, which one's on bottom. Just make sure that one is in each slot on this pulley. Now that those belts are replaced, I'm going to make sure that all my bearings are lined up nicely and that the cylinders can both freely spin. That seems pretty good. Now I'll reconnect my motor harness by connecting this black and red wire to the black and red wire. And now I'm going to grab my top cover that I set aside earlier, and I'll rest it on the system while I reconnect these connections. So I'll connect my HDMI, the 2-position black connector, and the 4-position black connector. I'll make sure those wires are tucked away neatly so they won't get pinched. And now I'm going to reattach my top cover by lowering the front down, pushing backwards, and then lowering the rest of the way. From here, I'm going to reattach my top cover screws. And with that, I've replaced an EVO motor.